Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Donna Rutherford. Now, Donna is an accountant by trade, but actually spends most of her time in the cloud, in the IT cloud. And she's global business operations manager in a high-tech company. But in her spare time, and there's not that much of it, Donna also runs the Facebook group DNA Help for Genealogy UK. How many people are on that particular Facebook group?
Hey, hi guys.
Fantastic. And is a great resource specifically for advice relating to British and Irish matters and DNA. So today, Donna is going to talk to us about making the most of your autosomal DNA test, which is the most popular test for genealogical purposes. So please give a warm welcome to Donna Rutherford.
Thank you, Morris. Thank you, guys. Nice to see you all, and hi to all my friends from the group. So all of you will have, when you did your DNA test, probably one of the first things you did is look at it and go, okay, so what do I do now? It takes a long time to get used to DNA researching and how to use your DNA matches to enhance your genealogy, break down your brick walls, and confirm your family tree. What you need to be doing, and what we're going to talk about today, is how to start working on your matches. Always start at the top of your match list. Those are the people that are closest to you. Get to know how to use all the site tools and utilities, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. All the different utilities and things you can do at the site with your DNA test. You can upload to other sites, and I will mention that as we go, which sites you can upload to. Always remember to read terms of service at any sites you upload to make sure you're comfortable. We're also going to be looking at how to identify matches, some of the tricks we can use to identify matches. And you need to be aware that when you're doing your DNA research, you're going to be doing a lot of genealogy. Traditional genealogy has not gone away. You're going to be doing an awful lot of it to research with your DNA matches, with the aim being trying to find common ancestors, hopefully who are your common ancestors, that you confirm your tree, or perhaps confirm that your tree isn't what you thought it was. What matches should you be looking at? Now, it's really important that you don't set yourself up to fail by starting to look at the bottom of your match list and dealing with your 6 centimorgan or 10 centimorgan matches. I like to set myself up to, not to fail, I like to set myself up to have some wins. I use this chart here. It's a Tim Jensen chart on the ISOG wiki, and it talks about the likelihood of sharing a common ancestor with somebody at different amounts of centimorgans. So I only really start working on my matches that are more than 30 centimorgans. I know that's difficult for us in the UK because we don't have a lot of close matches yet. But once you start going down the list, you've got a less likely chance that you really do share a common ancestor with them in the last 5 to 6 generations. One of the things you want to do when you look at your match list is try and make a prediction of how that person relates to you. Don't take the site classification too literally. They might tell you it's a fourth cousin. It doesn't literally mean this person is a fourth cousin to you, because we have half relationships, we have once removed relationships, twice removed relationships, double cousins. There's lots of things that go on genetically. All the sites use their own algorithms to work out what actually is a match as well. So just be aware when you see a match on the different sites, they might look like they're different centimorgans, because all the sites use their own process to work out what is a match. There's a really great tool called the Shared Centimorgan Project, set up by Blaine Bettinger. If you've been around in the DNA world for a while, you would have heard of Blaine Bettinger. He's very well known American. He set up the Shared Centimorgan Project, and our very own Johnny Pearl, who I think is also talking this weekend, he set up the DNA Painter site, and he's made an interactive version of Blaine Bettinger's Shared Centimorgan Project tool. And you can actually go online. There's please write down the URL. If you're going to bookmark any site with your DNA research, this is one of the ones to bookmark. DNApainter.com, tools, and the Shared CM. You can go in there, you can type in the amount of centimorgans that you share with your match, and it will give you a prediction of who that match might be. Sorry, one other thing I wanted to mention. This is brand new at Ancestry, just over the last few weeks. The Ancestry have set up something very similar to this. And if you've done an Ancestry test, where you see the centimorgans, you can click on that. You're going to get a very similar chart now. And it's going to give you the some predicted relationships that aren't just fourth cousin. It will tell you that this could also be a third cousin once removed or whatever. So that's brand new at Ancestry. Not a lot of people realise it's there, but you just click on the amount of centimorgans and that will pop up their chart. It's not exactly the same as the Shared CM project. They use their own analysis to do it. So talking about Ancestry, we're going to start on the Ancestry site. Who's done an AncestryDNA test? Okay, quite a lot of people. It is the biggest database. They also do not allow uploads into their site. So if you want to get into their database, you do need to test with them. If you haven't already, they've just released a new beta feature. Now, beta in the IT world, which is where I'm from, usually means it's something that you do in testing before you release it to the general public. Now, the beta tests at Ancestry, they've released for all of us to use to see all the new features that are coming up. And they're hoping to solve and fix any bugs with it, and then it will become the mandatory way of seeing your DNA matches at Ancestry. If you haven't switched it on already and you'd like to look at these new features that I'm going to tell you about, you can do that by going up to your extras menu at AncestryDNA and clicking on Ancestry Lab. And when you go in there, you'll see any new features available and you can click them on. Alternatively, if you try them and you're finding that they're not working very well for you, you can go and click them off there as well. One of the best features, I think, in the beta is this fact we've now got coloured buttons to put against our match. We used to have the gold star, remember, that's still there, but now we've got 24 coloured buttons to choose from, and you can be as creative as you want to start colour coding your matches. Some people are using a mix of two colours, and some people are using one colour for maternal, another colour for a grandparent set. I use a special colour for one of my mysteries, the Hull mystery, which if I get through this you might hear about later. I use that colour for anyone who's part of my whole mystery. You also get the blue unread dot is still there. The blue unread dot is still there as well. If you get a blue dot next to your match, that means you haven't clicked through and looked at that profile. And a little tip for you, if you click through and look at the profile and thought, oh, I wish that had still been unread because I want to go and look at that again, you can toggle that blue dot back on again. So next time you go and you look at your match, it will look like it's unread. I haven't started colour coding my matches yet because I'm spending so much time trying to work out how I want to use my 24 colours. So there's also a new look match list. You can see down here at the bottom of the screen. The notes, the centimorgans, all shown now going across the screen. It's a much more condensed view than we used to get, so it's only taking up a small row now, each match. And it's got a continuous scroll effect. So where we used to page through matches, you now just continuously scroll down. A lot of people are having a bit of a glitch with that over the last few days, and it's freezing up on them. And I find if I just refresh the page, it will start scrolling for me again. But when I talk about things being in beta, those are the glitches that you could see. You can also submit feedback to Ancestry on any of these new features. In fact, any of the features of their site, they like to hear good things and bad things. If you've tested a mother under this new look site, you'll also see mother's side come up, and you can see there I've tested my mother, and you can see the top match there is on my mother's side because it is my mother. But as I go through my matches, anyone that matches here will have mother's side. If you've tested a father, it will have father's side. And you can see there, if you've got the old shared ancestry hint, we used to have a leaf, is now called a common ancestor under the new under this new match page. Just a word of warning: if you're using any of the Chrome extensions, e.g. the Jeff Snavely tool or the DNA labelling tool, those will no longer work under this new site version. If you've been using DNA labelling to colour code your matches, I would suggest you take some screenshots or note down what colours you've used, switch across to the beta, use these new coloured buttons, and you can go and remark your matches now using Ancestry rather than your Chrome extension. The things you need to do at all the sites is learn how to sort your matches, filter your matches, and search through your matches, because you want to be able to find things quickly. You might want to look at certain subsets of matches. So I'm going to take you through each of the features of all the companies and how we can sort, filter, and search. So Ancestry, this is all my screenshots of Ancestry are the new beta feature. I apologise if you've not got that switched on, but this hopefully might make you think about going to switch it on to have a look. You can switch it off again if you don't like it. So first of all now, when you click on all matches at the top of your DNA match list at Ancestry, you'll see all your coloured buttons, and you can click on those to just see people that you've colour-coded into your groups. You've got 24 groups. You can also see how many matches you've got. I've got 39,000. Something, can't read the small print, and also it will show how many distant matches I've got, and it will also show how many matches I've got with my mother. Now just bear in mind the number of matches I've got with my mother is of my fourth cousins and closer, it's not of all my matches, and sometimes that gets a bit confusing. You can also click on, there you can see all your new matches as well, and it will sort by dates. It will say these are the last 7 days, these are the last month, last week, these are the last month. Good way to find all your new matches. You can also filter your matches. So if you go across to the Add a Filter, under Add a Filter you can sort just by people who've got common ancestors. So you might want a nice easy afternoon where some of the work's done for you, you've got a bit of a hint to follow up, and you can click on all your common ancestors and see which ones look like they've also got a person in their tree that you have in your tree. So common ancestors mean Ancestry are saying it looks like you've both got the same person in your family tree, so here's what it looks like, go away and research it yourself. You can also see the matches you haven't viewed, and in my personal opinion this is the best way to see your new matches. Because that will sort it in order of distance. So if you sort it by how many new matches you got in the last 7 days, you'll get all your small distant matches, which I don't look at. Doing it this way, you'll see your closest matches at the top. Just a tip, there's no filter for regions now. So if you are filtering your DNA matches at Ancestry by which region they belong to, that's the genetic communities. I have one called Scotland. If I clicked on Scotland in the filter before, I could see any matches that were also in that region. You can still get to that, just not through the filter anymore. You can do it through the ethnicity, My DNA story. Click through to the map and you can go through to your matches there. Then the last thing to do is you can search on your matches. If you click on that little search button, it will open up 2 fields for you. One is search by surname and the other one is search by location. These are searching the family trees that your matches have connected their DNA to. And so of course it's only for people who have trees attached. Now this is a look at the new match list, a little closer of a look, and this is the what they've done actually. I was putting this together on Wednesday night and I wanted a shot of what the new profile page looked like. But when I went to the new profile, it looked even more new. So this is the new profile. So if you've been using Ancestry in the last couple of days, you would have seen that the profile has completely changed, and now it looks like this. I like it. It's nice, clean and crisp. So brand new, and it's now separated into 3 tabs. So you've got trees on the first tab, you've got ethnicity in the second tab, and you've got all the shared matches in the third tab. Shared matches are the most powerful part of DNA testing, and we're going to talk about those a lot more. Shared matches, got a whole slide on it. One of the most powerful tools at Ancestry. Ancestry don't have a chromosome browser, but their shared matches are extremely powerful. These are all your they will only show common ancestors. Oh, sorry. These are shared. When you see shared matches, you will only see them for people who are fourth cousins and closer to you. You can still go to one of your distant matches and see who they share with. That will still work. But when you're seeing the list that comes back, it's only fourth cousins and closer to you and everybody else in the match. It's especially helpful if you've tested a family member. So, for example, I've got a second cousin in the database who's on my father's side, and when I click her shared matches, I know that all those matches fit on my Croker-Kemp line on my father's side. So actually that's the example I've used here. All these matches match that second cousin, so I know they're all from my Croker-Frith side. One of the other things I mentioned now on the site, shared ancestor hints, now called common ancestors. You can click on those common ancestors, click on the little leaf, and it will actually come down. I've clicked one here for one of my matches, and it will show you who it thinks the common ancestor is between you and this match. So it's telling me, and interestingly, it's come up with Croker-Frith. Now that's right, because the subset I'm looking at here is the match to my second cousin, who's on that Croker-Frith line. And I can see here when I click through the common ancestors that this particular match also has Frederick Croker and Minnie Frith in her tree. So that's a good lead for me to say, okay, but it looks like she's descended from them. I know I'm descended from them. Let's see if I can figure out how that fits together. These are only a hint. You must do the verification yourself. Just because you've got a common ancestor and a little leaf hint there doesn't mean to say that's the root of the DNA. You must then still look at shared matches and do all the other verification that you've got the right people. Maps. I love maps. So you can view matches at Ancestry. At the very top of your page, you'll see up there on the right-hand side, just above the DNA match list, it's got a little tiny button called Map. Now, if you click on that, a map will pop up and it will tell you where your matches live. Now, bear in mind, this is a location they've used in their Ancestry profile. This isn't something they've put in onto their DNA page. It's their actual Ancestry profile, and it'll tell you where they live. Really useful for me because my more recent ancestry is in New Zealand, and it's quite useful for me to just look at my New Zealand matches. I know which line they're on, and I usually know who they are because in New Zealand, most of us are all related to each other. That was a joke, we're not really. With some sheep in between. So here's one of my New Zealand matches, and I've called it up and I've clicked on the map and it's taken me through to her Ancestry profile. Now here's a little tip for you. Even though they've got a match profile at Ancestry, always go back to their Ancestry profile as well. I spent 2 hours researching a man the other night in my match list. Figured him out, worked out who he was. He didn't have a family tree, he hadn't replied to any of my messages. There was no clues about who he was, but I sleuthed him out, figured it out. For some stupid reason, I hadn't looked at his Ancestry profile. I went to his Ancestry profile. He'd written a whole bio about himself, who his parents were, who his grandparents were, the URL to find his family tree on tribal pages. Everything was in that bio. Thankfully, it all agreed to my 2 hours of sleuthing, but I could have had 2 hours watching telly and not spending all this time trying to figure out who he was. So always look. You never know what people put in their Ancestry profile. Ancestry have a new feature, and it's on your front dashboard for your DNA matches, called Ancestry Throughlines, and there's been a lot of chatter in the community about throughlines over the last week. This replaces the old DNA circles that Ancestry used to have. Bear in mind, this is still in beta. Remember, beta means there could be some glitches, it still might not work right. Please send feedback to Ancestry. It looks for connections between you and your matches. It's trying to find in the background, are there trees that could be all stitched together to figure out how you might match somebody. It requires you to have your tree searchable. At Ancestry, there's 3 ways to set up a tree: public, private but searchable, or private and unsearchable. If you're doing a research tree, a quick and dirty tree to figure out who your match is, you keep that private and not searchable. You don't want anyone seeing all that stuff you're building up. But if you're just keeping your tree private because there's some things on there you don't want people to see, you can leave it as searchable. That means the robots, if you like, in the back end can start searching through trying to stitch together people's tree. They will never say who those people are, though. People can't see your tree. You must have your tree extending back at least 3 or 4 generations to work. This is currently free for everybody at Ancestry, but it may become a subscriber-only option at some point. A good tip at Ancestry, because I don't have time to spend any more time talking to you about throughlines, I could literally do a 2-hour presentation on throughlines alone. Encourage you to go and investigate it. There's some really good stuff and there's some really interesting ways and hints for you to find out more about your matches and some potential ancestors as well. Look for the question mark at Ancestry. Click on that question mark. Behind that, you'll see a whole lot of frequently asked questions, introduction tutorials, all sorts of really cool stuff. If you're stuck at Ancestry, look for the question mark. They have it behind. They have it on nearly all their tools. So let's go to Family Tree DNA. Who's tested with Family Tree DNA or uploaded to them? Cool. If you've uploaded to Family Tree DNA, you can use their autosomal transfer, and it's free for matches. And you pay a fee to use the tools, the chromosome browser, and see your ethnicity. Now, here's the thing. If you have uploaded to Family Tree DNA, you'll only be getting your top matches. You won't see all your speculative matches. You only get your high confidence matches. If you want to see all of your matches at Family Tree DNA, then I would encourage you to actually do a test with them. And you can actually get a test here today. There's a standout just across behind us. Also with Family Tree DNA, if you do a test with them, they will store your sample. So if you want to carry on and do some Y-DNA testing, if you're a bloke, or if you want to do mitochondrial DNA testing, which any of us can do, they will do that with that same sample. You don't need to do any more swabbing. They will keep your sample and attempt to use that for any further tests that you want. There has been, just want to point out on their dashboard, this is what their dashboard looks like. So if you have tested an Ancestry, would encourage you to have a look at Family Tree DNA and upload through their transfer. And if you like what you see, you may even be encouraged to do some more testing with them. Please note that they've just changed their terms of service. And as I said, when you're uploading, you should always read the terms of service at all the sites. Family Tree DNA are now allowing law enforcement kits into their database, so effectively you could be matched against a US law enforcement kit, which could be DNA from a crime scene of a violent crime where they're trying to figure out who the criminal is. If you've read about the Golden State Killer over the last year, that was something that was done at Gedmatch. Family Tree DNA are allowing this now through their database as well. If you had a kit, if you're from the EU and have a kit with Family Tree DNA already, they will have automatically gone and opted your kit out of law enforcement matching. If that's something you're comfortable with, you can go to your settings and opt back in. And at any time, you can go to your setting page, check if it's opted out or opted in, whatever your preference is. The match list at Family Tree DNA, like all the sites, has your highest match on the top. It's one thing to remember, when you're using the amount of shared centimorgans at Family Tree DNA, you should always be aware that they add tiny segments to the matching. So once they've found somebody who is a match, they will then add all the segments greater than 1 centimorgans. You can actually go to the chromosome browser and look at all segments greater than 7 centimorgans, and that will give you a shared centimorgan amount that you can then use on the charts or at the shared centimorgan project tool at DNA Painter. You can resort any of these columns at Family Tree DNA just by clicking on the top of them. So if you want to sort your matches into alphabetical order, you just click on the name. If you want to sort them by match date to find your latest matches, you click on match date and it will resort them in date order. You'll note something here at Family Tree DNA. They also tell you if someone matches you on the X chromosome. Now we know from our beginners talks that we all have two gender defining or sex chromosomes. We get an X, all of us get an X chromosome from our mother. Boys get a Y chromosome, but men give a X chromosome to their daughter. So females have 2 X chromosomes, they're XX, and males are XY. Now the X chromosome gets tested at all the sites, but you don't get to see if anyone matches you on that X chromosome at all the sites. Family Tree DNA do that, and they will tell you if you have an X match. Now because the X DNA doesn't go from man to man, you can start to work out where that match might have come from. One word of warning, you need to have a decent amount of X DNA before you go figuring out where this DNA might have come from. And general opinion is we should be looking at X matches greater than 15 centimorgans. How do you sort, filter and search? Because you want to start looking through your match list while you're doing your research. To find shared matches, you click on this little checkbox here next to, I think this is my mum. You click on the little checkbox next to her, and then I'm pointing to the screen. I don't know why, because none of you can see that. You looking up here. But you can see that where number 2 is, that you can choose to now find all the matches in common with her or all the matches that are not in common with her. Why would I want to find matches not in common with her? Well, I would want to find matches that are my paternal side. So I can always choose to find matches that aren't in common with her. Of course, I like to use shared matches. I think they're the most powerful thing we can use when we're doing DNA research. So I can click for example, if I had a second cousin here, click on her and check everyone in common with her, and that's how I find my shared matches at Family Tree DNA. I can search, so up here at number 3 is the search function. I can click that, the advanced search, and I'll get 2 boxes. I can either click for names or ancestral surnames, or do it separately if I go to advanced search. I can filter my matches, so I can filter by just close matches, immediate family, or I might want to search for all my X matches, and I can do that here using the filter button. Now, what do the icons mean at the across the column of the match list? Well, the very first one is the box with the silhouette. It will be blue if it's a male and pink purple if it's a female. Then if you've tested a parent or you've got some of your close family linked on your family tree, the site will tell you whether this is a paternal or maternal match. So I know this match is a maternal match because it has a red mother, that's a mother icon. Going one over, I've got an envelope. That means I can email my match. At Family Tree DNA, yes, this will come up. At Family Tree DNA, when you open their profile, they will have their email address there. So you can use the email for a bit of sleuthing, or you can use the email to contact them as well, or a bit of both. And then, going across the page, you'll see the date of the match, the distance, the shared centimorgans, and then the other little icon is to link them through to your family tree. You should always set up a family tree where you can at these sites. It will really help your matches and help you to get some hints about how you might all fit together. Maps, love maps. I think I said that before. This is on the My Origins menu at Family Tree DNA, you can actually see the locations of the earliest known ancestors of your family finder matches. Now, on the right of the map are two little pins, maternal and paternal. If I switch those both on, it will tell me whereabouts in the world the earliest known ancestors of my family finder matches are. I won't ever see anyone from New Zealand here because we're quite a new country. Not many people have their earliest known ancestors from New Zealand. Chromosome browser. So this is the first time we're seeing a chromosome browser. So Family Tree DNA have a chromosome browser. One thing you can't do is compare two of your matches to each other. So at Family Tree DNA, the chromosome browser, you are always the base person. When you're looking at the chromosome browser, you're always looking at your matches compared to you. So here we have two people, my uncle and my mother, and you can see I've put them on the chromosome browser. And it looks like they've probably got some overlapping segments, right? So my mother and my uncle, you can see I match my mother across all the chromosomes. So I match her 100%. But why? Because I have two chromosomes. So I must match my dad on some of it. Well, what you're looking at on a chromosome browser is your maternal chromosome and your paternal chromosome. You've got two of them, right? One for mother, one for father. You're kind of looking at them stacked on top of each other. So always think you're kind of looking through them. The chromosome browser can't tell you if these matches on your maternal or paternal chromosome. You're probably thinking now that my uncle here must be my mother's brother, and that's why they've got all these overlapping segments. This is not what we call a triangulated segment. Actually, what I'm showing you here is my paternal uncle and my mother. Now, I can tell you my dad's brother and my mother don't share any DNA whatsoever. So why am I seeing overlapping segments? Because the chromosomes are stacked on top of each other. They can't tell me if these are both paternal matches or both maternal matches. In fact, what we're looking at here is matching on my paternal chromosome and matching on my maternal chromosome. I can't tell that from the browser, so how do I figure it out? If you go back to your dashboard, there's a matrix tool. Click on the matrix, and then I put in my mum and my uncle, and you can see that the boxes are white. That means they do not match each other. Now, if I called up all my dad has 5 brothers I've tested. If I call up some of them and see if they match, sure enough, I've got nice little blue ticks in the matrix, so I know they all match each other. So if you've got 2 matches on your chromosome that appear to overlap, you can use the matrix tool to see if they do match each other. It won't tell you if they match on those segments, so it's kind of not 100%, but it's enough to tell you if you can rule out whether they're matching or not. Downloads. So you might want to download your data into a spreadsheet or use it some other way. You can download all your matches at Family Tree DNA. At the bottom of your match list, you'll see here download matches, downloads to a comma-separated variable file, which is a text file. You can open it in a text editor. Everything will be separated by a comma, hence comma-separated variable. You can bring it into a spreadsheet, Excel or Google Sheets or whatever. You can download your raw DNA. So if you've tested with them, you can download your raw DNA file from the dashboard. You can also download all the matching segments. So if you use anyone using DNA Painter to paint their DNA segments, if you want to download all your matching segments to use at DNA Painter, you can do that from the chromosome view at Family Tree DNA, and you'll download all those segments into a spreadsheet. MyHeritage, who's tested or uploaded to MyHeritage? Okay, once again, I encourage you to give that a go, read the terms of service, make sure you're happy uploading to that site. You can upload your DNA from the other sites. If you've done that before this year, You could be grandfathered in and have a free upload for life now, so you won't pay for any of the tools. From now, if you upload for free and get your matches, but to use the tools, you pay a fee to be able to use all the tools at our family tree, at MyHeritage. There's also, you can test with MyHeritage, and you will get some of the tools and utilities, but you need to have a subscription with them to see everything. Once again, your match list at MyHeritage starts with the highest matches at the top. And they call each match, as you look through your match list at MyHeritage, they call it a DNA card. How do you sort, filter, and your matches, sort, filter, and search your matches at MyHeritage? They have a nice sort by button at the top of the match list. It's a good way to find your most recent matches because that's one of the sort functions, so you can see all your new ones. And a little trick at MyHeritage, if you haven't spotted it, if you look down your match list, anyone that is recent will have a little new icon on their DNA card. Filter matches, lots and lots of options. You can filter by relativity. You can sort if you've got some smart matches, which is basically you've got a family tree match. You can sort by all your relationships, so you can just look at distant or close family. You can sort by locations as well. It's the MyHeritage profile location, so again I might want to look for people located in New Zealand. And you can sort by people's ethnicities as well. Filter it, so it'll just filter and give you a subset based on what you choose. You can also search. If you go up to the top of the match list, there's a little magnifying glass, and then you can search by name or ancestral surname, so name of your match or the ancestral surname. Now this is what the match, when you open up a match at MyHeritage, this is what the page looks like. So we saw Family Tree DNA just has one line going across the top, and it's got, you open up the profile and see the email address. Ancestry have got a new profile page where it's got 3 tabs. This is the MyHeritage page is very long, so these 3 columns is the whole long list. So starting at the top of what their profile looks like, you've got a place to put names and contact them using the internal messaging system. If you've got any tree hints, that's the next section down. It will show you if you've got the same common ancestors in your tree. If you've got any shared locations with them, there's a map. And then you've got the shared matches, my favourite part, the shared matches. And the really cool thing here is that if you look at that top match, not only does it tell you that you match this person, this is a shared match, it will tell you what the relationship is of that shared match to your match as well. So here, for example, in this match, the top shared match, you can see that the shared match is actually his mother. So this is really cool. You can find out a bit more about your matches. It will give a tree if your match has got a tree, and it will show any ethnicities, and it will show the shared segments. So if you're doing DNA painting like the shared segments, you can actually just download or see them here on the match list. They do have maps, which is great, and this is based on their MyHeritage profile. So if you're managing quite a few kits, they won't all have a location. It's only the person who has an actual profile at MyHeritage, and it's their location. They have something new called the theory of relativity. This is absolutely brilliant, and they've got a really great blog about it. Absolutely encourage you to go and read their blog. It's a new feature. It hasn't rolled out to all accounts, but it is. I think it's getting close to rolling out to everybody. The theory is that behind the scenes, they're trying to stitch together people's family trees to work out how you might match your match. Now, in this case, there's 3 family trees that have been used to stitch together how I match my match. They don't like my family tree enough to go up one more generation. I know why that is. It's my own fault. They've moved to a second tree because they think that the mother of Margaret is Thomas Mason Robertson. I don't care that every 99% of the trees in the world have Thomas Mason Robertson as the mother of Margaret. He definitely isn't, and I've got the DNA to prove it. But unfortunately, it was my own fault because I started my tree at Ancestry many, many, many years ago, and I called that man Thomas Mason Robertson, and all those trees have been copied through time. So on all these types of things, that's why you take them as a hint, because it's stitching together. The robots are in the background looking for trees that all match each other, and the robots are putting together, not somebody who knows my family tree. Tools. So there's a separate tools menu at MyHeritage, and these are the 2 most useful tools: Chromosome Browser and Auto Clusters. So the Chromosome Browser, like like at Family Tree DNA, is comparing to you. You are always the base person. What you will see here is if you've got some triangulated segments, that means you do all match each other on the same location, on the same chromosome. It can't tell you if this is your paternal chromosome and your maternal chromosome, but it is telling you in the background, it's had a look and it can tell that they all match on the same chromosome, and they're showing it to you as a triangulated segment. Be aware if you add a fourth person to the screen, you can add up to 7 people on the chromosome browser, and the fourth person doesn't triangulate with these ones, that box will completely disappear. So then you know you're looking at 2 groups of people. If you don't have a triangulated segment, but it looks like you've got overlapping segments, it means some of them are on the paternal chromosome, some of them the maternal ones, and you need to go figure that out. Yes, so remember you're always looking at those chromosomes as if they're stacked on top of each other. Something else I really, really love is auto clusters. I like shared matches. I love to work on my trees, my matches as groups of people or clusters of people, and I'll tell you why if I have time. So auto clustering is a new feature at MyHeritage. If you've used the Genetic Affairs tool, it's the same tool, but working at MyHeritage. And each of the coloured cells represent an intersection between 2 of your matches, meaning that they're both individuals match each other and match to me. You can see along the top and down the side is the name of all your matches, so it's grouping all your matches together for you. You generate it and it will send you an email when it's ready for you to go and collect, and you will actually see this funky graphic where it moves all your matches up into a nice cluster. Downloads, you can download all your DNA matches and all their segment info. And you do that at the top of the match screen. There's 3 little dots there. Lots of people miss this because it's just 3 little dots. Click the 3 little dots. You can export all your matches, or you can export all the shared segments as well. So if you're using DNA Painter and things like that, you get all your segments here. Also, if you're looking at people on a chromosome browser and just want to download their segments, you can do that there as well. And if you've tested with MyHeritage, you can download your raw file by going back to the DNA menu and looking at Manage DNA Kits. 23andMe, who's tested at 23andMe? Okay, so you can't upload to 23andMe. If you want to get into their database, you have to test there. They concentrate a lot on health as well. You can actually choose to do an Ancestry test with them or a health test or both with them. Oh, actually, I'm not sure if you can just do health. But they do offer health testing as well. They call their DNA matches DNA relatives, so you're looking for DNA relatives at 23andMe. And you can go to your family and friends menu. I'm not so sure I like it called friends because I'm not sure I really am friends with all my DNA matches, but that's a whole different story. But you can click on DNA matches and go through and see all your DNA match list, which looks like this. So you see all your matches down in a column, and guess what? They put the highest match at the top. Great, because that's what we like. You can now go and sort your matches by the strength of relationship, so you can resort. You can filter your matches. There's you can expand out all these different filters down here. So I could expand this by profile features and activity, their birthplaces, whether they're my mum's side or dad's side. I don't have a parent tested at 23andMe because my mum's sick of doing DNA tests for me, but I must get onto that. And if you've got that, they'll separate those for you. And you can search by name, relationship, or location up in the search field. Now, this is what the match page looks like at 23andMe. Big, long column as well. So I've separated into 3 columns to see here. You can also you can contact your matches at 23andMe. You just send them a message through the internal system. 23andMe will actually show you the centimorgan amount. You may have noticed on the match page when we were on there, it just shows you a percentage. If you're looking for the centimorgans amount, because that's what we usually talk about, right, you can find that on the match page itself. It will attempt to tell you how you match that person. There will be a little chromosome browser there to show you the matching segments. If they've put any family background, now the really cool thing, when I did the slide on Wednesday night, I realised this was a new match at 23andMe. And I could see there that she comes from my Kemp family, and I could see she came from my Kemp family because of other matches she shared with, which are over there on the right. And actually, I figured out who she was relatively quickly, so I have a whole new cousin in my tree now, thanks to doing this presentation. So you can compare your ancestry and your haplogroups. You can compare 23andMe do Neanderthal testing, absolutely of no use whatsoever for your family history research, but quite fun to look at, and I'm kind of gutted that she's more Neanderthal than I am. And then the important thing, your relatives in common, so your shared matches. So once again, now that I know who she is and I've got her in my tree, I can now see all my other matches at 23andMe that she matches, so I can start to work and do some more work on that particular Kemp line in my tree, and I can add notes down here that my matches don't see are private to me, so I can add some notes here as well, and they have my map, and I can see two of my matches are actually based in New Zealand. So this does presume that people have added location to their profile. They also have a chromosome browser. Unlike the other chromosome browsers, at 23andMe you can compare two of your matches together. You don't have to be the base person. So here I'm actually comparing 3 people to me, and I'm only showing you a small part of their chromosome browser here. And you can download all those matching segments. Something to play with at 23andMe. They also do a chromosome browser of ethnicity. If you've been doing DNA Painter, Johnny Pearl has set it up so you can import your 23andMe ethnicity onto your chromosomes at DNA Painter. But please bear in mind, if you don't have a parent tested, it's nicely split it into maternal, paternal for me. But believe me, it really doesn't know because I haven't tested a parent. So these could be really mixed up. So just be a bit careful when you're using it. And you can download all your raw data as well from here. So yeah, download your matches via a link at the bottom of the DNA relatives page. It's called Download Aggregate Data. And that will include all their matching segments as well, so it's all in one big report. And you can download your raw DNA. If you've tested it at 23andMe and you want to upload it somewhere else, you can download it via the settings page. Living DNA, who's uploaded or tested at Living DNA? Lots of people have done, well, who's done all of them? Several times. So Living DNA, it's still a very small database. You can upload free from other sites. Now, if you were lucky enough to get into the Find My Past deal last year, Living DNA have now partnered with Find My Past, and they're their DNA partner. And they had a deal where you could upload for free and you got all the ethnicity. If you've not used Living DNA, they do a lot of, they compare you to what was the people of the British Isles POBI database, and they can break down your DNA to different counties within the British Isles and different regions of the British Isles. This is my mum's result. I uploaded her for free because there was no way she was going to swab again for me. Matching has been rolling out. Be very aware here. Matching is still rolling out. It's still in beta. You must opt into matching. It's not by default. Opt into the family networks. And a lot of people who have tested there haven't realised this and not opted in. And I think Living DNA have been sending out some emails to encourage them. My mum has only 3 matches in the database. Myself, my son, and her brother, my uncle, and that's because I uploaded them all there. She doesn't have any other matches. So I would say with Living DNA, upload for free, watch this space. It could be that you're going to be able to upgrade your free test to get some ethnicity. It's going to take a while for them to build up, but so please just watch this space. Who's uploaded to Gedmatch? Okay, so Gedmatch is not a test site, it's a public DNA sharing database. So please be aware that anyone's got your kit number, they can find out a lot about you. Cool. So you can upload via their Gedmatch Genesis site now. They've moved all your kits over. So if you've not used Gedmatch for a while and you're on the old site, they've migrated all your kits into Gedmatch Genesis. Possible they'll drop the Genesis name at some point. And you can compare anyone with anyone at Gedmatch. There's lots of different reports that you can run at Gedmatch. If you're looking for your shared matches, you might want to run a people who match one of 2 kits, so it will show you who matches, but be aware that's not triangulation. They have tier 1 reports. You make a donation, you can have access to the tier 1 reports, and they do a triangulation report there. But what next? So we've been through the sites. We've had a whirlwind tour of all the sites you can upload to or test at. So now you can use all these tools, all these features to try and identify who your matches are. If they've got family trees, I've shown you where the family trees are on the matches page. They may have identified themselves on it. You've got their shared CM, all the sites had that shared CM number. Don't take the cousin category literally at the site. Go to DNA Painter, the shared CM tool, or if you're on Ancestry, use their new tool to see the potential relationships. Open up the profile of the match. Goodness knows what they may have put there and written about themselves. Some people write a whole biography. So always go and look at the profile of the match to find some clues. Contact the match. All cases you can contact your match through these sites. I like to keep it simple when I'm contacting them. I always, if I'm using an internal site messaging system, I always give them my email address. Shared matches, shared matches, shared matches. It's like location, location, location. Shared matches are going to be really powerful because when you're working on people as a group, you might have 5 people who all match each other and only 3 of them have family trees. So you're going to be able to work out the common ancestor of the group. It doesn't matter that 2 of them don't have a tree. If you're just looking at that match on its own, it could be quite difficult to figure out who they were. Use some sleuthing techniques. So I mean sleuthing, not talking. If you've managed to figure out where your match lives, don't go around there, sit outside the house in your car with your binoculars, taking photos of them to see which side of the family they look like. That's stalking and will get you into a lot of trouble. Sleuthing, if they don't have a tree, it really isn't a problem. Every test taker does have their right to privacy. You can't go and tell them they must have trees. They don't have to do one. They bought their test, they can do whatever they like with it. Look for clues on the match's profile. Could have their age or their location. They might be on one of those maps I showed you. Google their profile name, use social media, all the places you can, be creative in your sleuthing. And then what you want to do is build research trees. You've got all this information now about your matches, and I always I call these quick and dirty trees. It's actually a word that's bandied around a lot in the community. I make my quick and dirty trees sometimes just on a piece of paper. I just quickly write up their trees and work out where they'll fit, and I've got a little tree, and within an hour or so I may have worked out the common ancestor with these matches. If you're doing it somewhere on a site that has trees, please make sure that your tree is really private and not searchable by other people, because you could be causing a lot of concern if you don't have to get this right. This is not a gold standard tree, right? Once you've worked out the common ancestor, you're trying to find that common ancestor really quickly, you can go back later, make sure the DNA supports the relationship, and look for all the documents to support that genealogical trail in your tree. You might want to consolidate your matches, so all the way along I've told you can download matches. You might want to consolidate them. I use spreadsheets. You can use Google Sheets, which is free. Lots of fantastic tutorials on how to use those. There's a tool called Genomate Pro. If you're quite technical, you need a good solid knowledge of autosomal DNA research, but you can use that tool to consolidate your matches from all the sites. But here's a tip. They also require you to use a DNA Gedmatch client, which I think is about $5 a month to use. And you can use that client to download your match list from Ancestry. You may have noticed there wasn't at Ancestry, you can't download your list of matches, but you can do it with this tool. Taking notes all the way along, I showed you where you can take notes on your match. You can do all those on the sites. They all have places to write notes. Just bear in mind, though, that if you writing a lot of notes on a site and one of your matches decides to opt out of matching or delete themselves out the database, all your fantastic notes go with them, never to be seen again. Take some screenshots, or maybe even think about keeping your notes off-site in a notebook. I use a digital notebook. Test other family members. This will really help your research. Remember, children only have 50% of their parents' DNA, so always test that older generation first. We're sort of diluted from our parents' DNA. Look at using other DNA tests to enhance your autosomal DNA tests as well. Target test people. So always ask yourself, I'm trying to solve a mystery. Who would I need to test to help me solve this mystery? So think about who you could target and go and ask to test. Lots of other third-party tools, not going to go into those. There'll be some talks on some of them during the next 2 days. DNA Painter, I know several of you said you use that. Also on the site, there's the Watto tool, What Are the Odds? This is brilliant if you've worked out a tree, and you can go there. Now, I quickly want to tell you about the Hell mystery, so I've got 5 minutes to do it. And this really illustrates why it's worth working on your groups as a shared group. Now, I had a man turn up in my mum's match list 3 years ago, and he was from Hull. My mum's family are from Hull. And I just presumed he had an NPC in his tree because none of his common ancestors were my common ancestors. He also very kindly put me in contact with his mother, who gave me all the full tree, and I didn't match his father, so I knew it was his maternal side. So I figured somewhere along the line I was going to send him some amendments to his tree. Now, in the next 3 years, more matches trickled in that also matched him, and I was always use shared matches, and I could see he was getting all these shared matches. So I thought, well, I'm going to be able to tell him where he's wrong very soon. Suddenly realised that the ones that had trees also didn't seem to fit in my tree either, but seemed to fit nicely in his tree. So now I've got a group of shared matches that all go back to the same common ancestor. They all go back to George Ashton. George and Jane Ashton. Now, I thought this is really unusual because George and Jane Ashton did come from Hull, but they're certainly not my family. And so I pulled out the census document from around the time that my great-grandfather was conceived in Hull, and I found the Ashtons living at 4 Sherwood Square in Marvel Street, Sculcoats in Hull, and I thought, something rings a bell with that, and I dragged out my great-grandfather's birth certificate, and he was born and presumably conceived at number 2 Sherwood Square, Marvel Street, Sculcoats, Hull. Now, I have to ask myself, why do I have a whole lot of DNA to the people that lived next door to my great-great-grandparents? And I think we might only have one answer to that. So you just never know what you're going to find. And by looking your matches as groups, it's a whole lot better, because otherwise I would have just kept thinking that his tree had an NPC in it and I was going to have to tell him he was wrong. That's it. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I went so fast.
Thank you, Donna. Fabulous. Well, packed full of information to keep us going for quite a while. We are recording these videos, these presentations as videos, so you will be able to see the slides. We're probably going to set up a YouTube channel called Family Tree Live, and we'll put them up there. So do go onto YouTube and search for Family Tree Live, and you'll probably find the lectures there at some point in time over the next couple of weeks. Now, we're a little bit short of time. Any burning questions for Donna? Donna will be around for the rest of the day, probably... And tomorrow as well. So you will be able to catch her for any questions that you might have. And I don't see any hands going up. So let's just say, again, a very big thank you to Donna Rutherford for a fantastic presentation. Thank you, Donna.
Oh, sit down real fast.